Foreman against the vaunted boxing skills of Muhammad Ali. Here comes Ali. You can see him there, very calm. If you saw the interview, there's no question on my mind, and I don't think anybody else's mind here at ringside, about the tremendous confidence of this tremendous athlete. It's age against youth. The experience of Muhammad Ali against the youth and brute force on blinding speed. You can hear the band beginning to strike up in the background as Ali moves to the ring. This is what Muhammad Ali lives for. This is the man's life. This may be a historic event. Muhammad Ali coming into the boxing ring for the last time. Should Muhammad Ali retire, this will be, what you're seeing now, a very historic event. Should Ali win the title tonight, it definitely is an historic event, because he will have to definitely go down in the history of boxing as one of the all-time greats.
The Trevor Jackson Podcast.
Thank y'all for tuning in, man. You're far too kind for hitting that, you know what I'm saying, button, and you seen that thumbnail, and this conversation was something of your interest. Give yourself a round of applause. Hey, what's popping with y'all today, man? You know, history is something that I appreciate. I like going back, looking in time at things that people did, historical moments, times that was unprecedented, people that was considered great that I may have not laid my eyes upon. And you know, Muhammad Ali gets a lot of appreciation. They call him the greatest. You know, he stood with his morals over financial gain. And he didn't go to Vietnam. And I never researched why his stance on why not going to war, because, you know, I feel like for some people, the military is a good thing. And I was talking to a younger brother today that felt lost in life. He felt like he didn't want to work no more. He didn't want to do this. He didn't know what he wanted to do creatively. And he was talking about how finances rule everything, man. I said, go to the military, man, before you become a statistic out here in these streets. And I don't want to see that. So my best advice for him, I said, you know, you don't have to listen to me, though, but my best advice for you is go to the military, man. I know a lot of good men that went to the military, changed their life, came home, and they in better positions than half the men that was out here the whole time when they was gone. Why they thought they was missing something, they came back home to the same things. So looking at Muhammad Ali say, I'm not going to war, I'm not going to fight. My best friend went to the military one time, and, you know, I told him the same thing, because that was around 9/11 when he went to the military, and I was like, oh, we going to war. Behind these World Trade Centers falling, America is going to war. And for sure, America went to war. The war was over. My dog made it back home safe and sound, healthy, and in a better situation in life. So, you know, I understand why not going to war, because you feel like as a black man, the leadership doesn't represent you. I know a lot of black guys that felt rejected and neglected by the military, and some of those guys ended up homeless. But in life, you know, the cause is already dealt. The things that is going to happen to you is going to happen to you. But you have to be disciplined. I feel like the military is a place where you're going to have to learn a lot of discipline. A lot of people want to do what they want to do on their own time. And I don't think that the United States operate like that. I don't know how other parts of the world operate, but I know the United States don't operate in ways that you can be undisciplined and survive. That's just my opinion. So I'm about to play this video, and we're going to chop it up on this video. This is when Muhammad Ali knew he was going to jail. He knew he was about to be fined. He knew that they was going to take his titles, his belts, and everything away from him. And he still was standing on morals and principles over financial gain. Let's get into the video, man. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button if you're new here. And if you enjoy the show, share it with your people, man. Real talk.
Muhammad, what do you do these days now? It seems I've sometimes wondered what you're doing.
You know, it's really strange. I'm actually more busy now than I was boxing, because at the time I was boxing, I had to go in training for like 3 months before a fight.
Yeah.
And like immediately after a fight, I was signing for another one, and I was like on the streets for like 3 weeks, and then I was back in training. And I fought as much as 3 and 4 times a year, and training 3 months each fight. I was mostly in camp. Mm-hmm. But I'm more busy now than I was, more active in the ring. For an example, I was in Pittsburgh yesterday and toured about 3 black high schools in one day, encouraging the youth. A lot of gang wars are going on. They're shooting each other and sniping at each other on the streets. And the principals mentioned that with the things that I have done and sacrifices I have made, I'm about one of the few people that they might listen to. So I went, and they did listen, and a couple of the gangs got together, and we had a little secret meeting, and they shook each other's hand and said they're going to try to stop fighting and shooting. A lot of them are taking dope, and a lot of the girls are going into prostitution. And we went to the schools, we talked with the various groups, and we had a good time. And I'm on a college tour also, and my agent, Richard Fulton here in New York, says that look like we're going to be booked for another 2 years in the colleges. And I'm also franchising about 500 restaurants called Champ Burgers. We have 5 of them in the Miami area.
Champ Burgers?
Champ Burgers, right. And we're negotiating on about 10 more buildings in Georgia, and we're coming up here and all over the country. And also, Random House will be coming out soon with my life autobiography, about 4 more months. So I'll stay pretty busy.
That's pretty good. Is there any? How do you stand now with the possibility of going to jail?
Oh, I don't know. I'm just waiting any day now.
Do you think about? Do you think about that though? Do you ever think what you'll do if you?
Well, yes, you think about it at nights when you're in the bed. You think about, if I went this way, what could have happened if I went this way, and I've figured it all out. No people gain freedom until some have to die, some lose their wealth, some give up money, and like I would say, the white race, when your people first got here, they didn't have these cameras and televisions and jet airplanes and air conditions and Howard Johnsons and Holiday Inns and Americana and Hilton hotels. They had to fight the Indians, watch their daughters raped and scabbed. Took 6 months to go from here to Los Angeles. Now you can do it in 3.5 hours. But nevertheless, they kept fighting and cutting down the trees. And they didn't see this, but they made a way for the present whites to rule. And the Japanese in World War II, they had these flights called suicide missions. They knew they would die, but they ran that plane, right? His life meant nothing when it came to the freedom of his daughter, his son, the future of his nation. And I would say, like the astronauts, 3 white astronauts almost got stranded in space, and their wives were waiting, and the children were worried because they could have been out there now, still in orbit.
Yeah.
But for the progress of white America in space, 8 astronauts died on the ground, and 3 almost not got back. But whenever people want to really make progress, some have to sacrifice a lot. And I like to say, white America right now is spending $30 million a day in Asia. Black and white boys are dying unjustly for nothing just to free somebody else. So why should I worry about going to little old jail to free my poor people who's been catching hell here for 400 years? It's kind of hard to put a black...
Are you asking me for an answer to that?
It's kind of hard to put a black man or any black person in this country in jail, because if you ask the average one, we're already in jail. We've been here in jail 400 years.
How does the subject changed so many times in that long sentence that I'm going to talk for a second now.
I find that funny. I'm going to talk for a second now. I find that funny. That seemed a little, defensive. He was defensive because Ali was cooking, and he was talking about his white race. Was he offended that Ali was cooking like that and talking about the race? I took a few notes, and I did a couple of Googles while we was listening to the conversation or whatever, though, and I was interested to see was Champ Burger still in existence, and it is in Houston, Texas. You know, the most popular item on the menu is the Banquet Champ Burger. So that's interesting. I never even seen one of them or heard one of them, but you know, Muhammad Ali was very charismatic. He spoke with sarcasm in that thing. It seemed like the tensions was hostile around that time anyway, because we know that 68 King died. 67 Ali got to go to the military or go to jail and lose it all. 65 Malcolm X passed away. The 60s, you know, JFK was assassinated. The 60s was a crazy time, man. Like, you know, I'm glad that I live in the time that I live in now, but to know somebody that was alive that experienced that, and they was like in their 20s or their early teens, I would love to have a conversation with them about, you know, the experiences from the 60s, what they thought about the 60s in comparison to what it is today. You know, so another thing that he spoke about that I feel is missing in the United States today is like the price that you have to pay, the sacrifice you have to pay to evolve. And he talked about the sacrifice that the white folks made to evolve. Their life didn't mean nothing. They would risk it all. You know, I met dudes in the military that was American proud and was willing to die and stand on business for this country. I remember when 9/11 happened. You know, I'm from the volunteer state, born and raised. The volunteer state, you know, the reason they call Tennessee the volunteer state, if y'all looking at this, you know, any other location that you're located in, they call it the volunteer state because that's the state that most people volunteered to be in the military, to fight wars, to go to Vietnam, to protect this country. And it's just interesting to see that he didn't want to go, and at that time he was vilified for not wanting to go to the military, to now being championed for standing on not going, because he's seen how hard and the hindrance that the country did to his own people. Why go fight for your people when the country is divided and you need to unify the country first before you expect me to want to protect the country? You know, that's crazy, man. That's crazy. Then he also spoke, before I get back to the clip, he also spoke that they were spending $30 million a day funding the war. This is 95 or 91. No, this got to be 60 something when this was aired, because this is before he went to jail for not going to the Vietnam War. So they were spending that type of money back then to fund a war, millions. That's crazy. Let's get back to it, man.
That I really don't know how that connects with Howard Johnson's and everything, but it's a terrific long harangue there that you did. Do you feel bitter toward the entire white race? Do you think there's something about whiteness that is evil?
No, sir. No, sir. Whatever white people do as far as evil or as far as mistreatment, it's just the nature of the white race to be this way. If we check history,
do you think it might be human nature?
Yes, just human nature to kill. If white people,
human nature.
I watch television. If there's not a movie of white people shooting white people in shootouts and cowboy pictures, they're shooting Indians. If they're not shooting Indians, they shoot Negroes. If they're not doing that, they're shooting reindeers or elephants or killing something. Just got to shoot. The system is built on war.
Now let me ask you this. Do you think if it had happened the other way around, for some reason in what's the word, evolution, if the genes and the pigments had happened to work some other way, and if the nation of Africa, if the continent of Africa had developed the kind of civilization that ours has, is it possible that, what I'm trying to say is there something intrinsically, I know this is part of the Muslim point, I assume, the black Muslim point, That there's something
I'm
intrinsically
just talking about history.
aggressive about white nature that there
I'm
isn't
not talking
about black.
no religious point. What I'm telling you is in history books, in your own books about this. I have a book called 100
Oh,
Years
sure, I
of
know.
Lynching.
There's.
So I'm not bringing up religion or nothing. This is just a fact that the world knows, you know. But I would say that just the nature, from what I see of darker people, is peace. I say like the Japanese seem to be a peaceful people until somebody else came over, dictating and trying to rule them. The Hawaiians, they'd be on the beach doing their little dance. The Indian was building his whatever teepee or whatever you call it. The African was somewhere doing his little dance. These people have never tried to go to other planets or enslave other people or take over countries.
Actually, that isn't true. If you took, for example, no, let me just, I don't want to get in an argument with you, but Tahiti, for example, is always used as an example of the paradise that the white man came and destroyed. But if you look into the history of when, I'm an expert because I just read a book about it, Captain Cook, but that supposedly peaceful paradise where people did nothing but pluck breadfruit off the trees and make love and had no disease until the white man got there, actually had a number of unpleasant aspects to it, like the fact that they strangled infants at birth to keep the population down, that there were live human sacrifices. So I know that there have been outrageous injustices against the black people in this country, but it doesn't really get us very far to talk about something as if the white man were some sort of intrinsic devil that no other race is.
You are right. What you said was the truth. The thing that you all have done to us is worse than the devil you told us about under the ground.
How would you like it if I were to lead into a commercial now?
Whatever you want to say, but when you say
After
devil,
this message
you're right.
from our local stations, we'll return.
Interesting. You know, when I think about integration, because Ali speaks as if a man that has to fight with his people and on his own, and he is speaking for the totality of the people. And ever since integration, men don't speak like that, with that we standing on this aggressive tone and manner. You put some coins in front of somebody, they'll be quiet. You put a peaceful opportunity in front of somebody, they'll sell out a whole race. But I want to talk about a couple of things before I get up off of here, man, because I just wanted to make myself aware of Ali's Vietnam stance, create a piece of content from it, and do further research behind the scenes. I got a few topics that I made of discussion, but he said so much that I could relate to in the video that I really don't need the topics. When he was talking about their nature is to kill. I've been talking on this channel recently about when it comes to politics and the white power structure and just government and all of that. I've been talking about a lot that to obtain the type of power that they have over the world, they use violence and fear. And then we see Muhammad Ali talking about their nature to kill. He also talked about how the slavery, the impact of slavery, and that like they was the creators of slavery, the Caucasian man. He was wrong in that aspect, and he even agreed to it at the end because, slavery was something that was biblically acceptable. Africans slaved their own people. Australians slaved their own people. Spanish people slaved their own people. It's in the history books, man. Not saying that it's right or it's wrong, but we can't blame the Caucasian man solely on doing that because they wasn't the only ones. I'm gonna talk about my most important note, then I'm gonna get up out of here because I don't want to waste too much of y'all time. I hope y'all have a wonderful day. But I just want to talk to the point of him not going to fight and refusing to fight. You know, he didn't go because he felt as if his people was being treated unfairly at home. I'm going to pose this question to y'all, and let's further the comments in the comment section below. Let's further this topic and answer this question in the comment section below. Is the black race still being treated unfairly today? Not from a physical standpoint, not from a financial standpoint, but just speaking to the mental structure of the country. Let's chop it up, man. I appreciate y'all for tuning in to my show. Peace, love, plenty of abundance. Make sure you go get you some money, and I'm gone. Chill.
Power of George Foreman against the vaunted boxing skills of Muhammad Ali. Here comes Ali. You can see him there very calm. If you saw the interview, there's no question on my mind, and I don't think anybody else's mind here at ringside, about the tremendous confidence of this tremendous athlete. It's age against youth. The experience of Muhammad Ali against the youth and brute force on blinding speed. You can hear the band beginning to strike up in the background as Ali moves to the ring. This is what Muhammad Ali lives for. This is the man's life. This may be a historic event. Muhammad Ali coming into the boxing ring for the last time. Should Muhammad Ali retire, this will be, what you're seeing now, a very historic event. Should Ali win the title tonight, it definitely is an historic event, because he will have to definitely go down in the history of boxing as one of the all-time greats.
The Trevor Jackson Podcast.